This evening, what we're going to do, we're going to make kind of a Salisbury steak. Over here, we have the gravies to come back in to kick it up a little bit more than whatever. So, first, we've got to come back in, we've got the hamburger, we've got a little bell pepper. Now the reason you want bell pepper and a little onion, we're going to mix it in, then we're going to come back and put a little panko in it to bind it together. And of course you got your seasonings, and then we're going to look at it. We're going to look at the skillet right here, we're going to kind of sear it a little bit, and then we're going to come back in and make the sauce, and we're going to let it cook for a while.
Okay, so what are we cooking today? We're cooking a Salisbury steak?
It's kind of a Salisbury type steak dish that if you get everything ready, the kids will love, the family will love, you can have people over.
How long have you been cooking this for?
Probably 20 years. You have to understand I've been cooking for 50 years. I came back in, kind of developed this over a period of time. What I like to cook is taste, texture, firmness, and a sauce.
Fantastic. So we have a Salisbury steak, and the ingredients we're starting with are about 2 pounds of hamburger meat. Is that 85-15?
It's about 85-15 because you want a little bit of the juices that come out of it. Too much where it's sitting there with too much meat, not enough juice, that doesn't go well in the pan.
Okay, perfect. Then we have 1 bell pepper chop. 1
bell pepper, a half onion there, a little more.
So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some ingredients. So are you going to do that now?
Let's go do it.
Alrighty.
Alright, first off, we're going to come back and add the bell pepper and the onion. We're going to mix it a little bit. And as you look, it's starting to come back in and start binding a little bit. You can put a lot of other things in it, but I've tried it many other ways. We're starting to come back and mixing it fairly decent. Alright, now, a little bit of salt. That's about a tablespoon of salt. One of my favorite products is Slap Your Mama. It's a Louisiana type product. It just has a little bit of kick. That's about a teaspoon. A little bit of fresh ground pepper. We're mixing it in. That's about another teaspoon. Now we're going to add a little panko breadcrumbs. You can use many different products. Panko I've found just binds it a little bit better. And there's about 2 teaspoons in it, okay? Now what we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit of olive oil in it to bind it just a little bit. And that's about 2 tablespoons. Alright, now we've got the meat with all the spices, and you can do whatever you like. Come back and all we're going to do is roll these little patties out. Then we're going to put them over here, sear them a little. Alright, now what we have here is, earlier we cooked a little bacon juice, or you can come back in and you got a little jar up there, you can put it in, and you can see now we've got the pan a little hot, and you can see where it's coming back in and kind of sizzling a bit. I like to put just a little bit in there, and that tells me if the pan's hot. We've come back in, we've taken the 2 pounds of hamburger, and we've come back and made 8 patties out of it. Okay? Now what we're going to do, we're just going to come back in with 4. If you got a bigger pan or whatever, it'll fit very well with 4 pans. All we're going to do is we're going to come back in and steam it and sizzle a little bit until it's really good on both sides. So the minute this gets done, then we're going to take the other 4 patties. You can do a 4, 2, 8, 12, 16, how many people you're doing it with. And you can come over here and you can look. It's kind of on a medium high, and we're just putting a little crust on it.
Okay, so the point is, right, we made 8 patties, and we made some bacon earlier, and we used the bacon grease that was left over, and we're going to sear these patties now for the Salisbury steak.
Right, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to make the stock. Just simmer it over the top. you just want to get a sear on it. Then we're going to come back in with our stock and gravy, and we've taken the 8 patties. We've got 4 of them in here, and if you notice, the 85-15's creating a little bit of juice in there. We're going to flip them over real quick here. You can see we're starting to get a little bit of a crispness to the bottom. We don't want to overcook these, because what we're going to do, we're going to finish cooking them in our sauce.
How long they been cooking for?
That's been cooking for roughly about 8 minutes.
Okay.
So when we get finished with this, I'm going to show you how to make the sauce. We're going to cook these other things, and we're going to go from there. And now this is cooked 6 to 8 minutes on the first side, 4 on this. If you notice, and if you come back in here, it's not too well done. The reason we want that is because we're going to put in the pan when we make the gravy that the juices are going into it. Now we've come back and cooked the hamburger. We didn't overcook them. They're probably medium rare to medium. The reason why we want that is because when I cook it in the stock, I want the juices to go in the pan. Okay? Now what we're going to do, this is the leftover grease from cooking the hamburger. We're just going to pour a little of it in there. Okay? Now, over here, I have got, you can use whatever you want. I found the best thing is a beef base. It's a McCormick's type thing. You put 1 tablespoon in 4 cups of water. That's the basis for that right there. I like to add a little bit of mushrooms. Now, one of my favorite things to enrich the gravy is another thing that you get is a McCormick's brown gravy stuff. What I did, we took 2 big tablespoons, just a little bit of water in that right there. So we've got this pan going a little bit. We're going to come back in and add the stock.
What heat is that on?
That's about medium high. Now you can see I've almost got the pan full. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to come back in, let that kind of get a little hot. We've come back and taken the mushrooms. You don't have to add them. You can add mushrooms, you can add onions or whatever you want. We're going to let this heat up a little bit. Once it gets heated up a little bit, then after it heats up a little bit, we're going to add a little bit more of the gravy stock in it. Now if you come back over and look, it's got a very kind of brown type mixture to it. Okay? What's going to fortify it is over here with our gravy. As any type of cooking, when you come back in, you can add flour to this to thicken it, but what we're going to thicken it with over there. Now we've come back in, we made the gravy, which I just showed you a little bit, with the beef base. We have this, which will go on towards the end. That'll be the thickening agent. We have all the hamburger patties going. Let's start putting them in. What we're going to do, we're going to let them cook in, and we're going to add, let me get this in just a second here. We've got 8 of them now. And you can do this in 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. One more over here. What that's going to do, it's going to come back and fortify the flavor, the taste. So we're going to let this cook. I'm going to turn the heat back up, let it boil for about 10 minutes. Now don't come back and add all the good stuff back in.
Okay, so we've put the hamburger patties in. They're in the beef and the gravy base. You can see on the top right where the stove is, it's about at 6 or 7. This is going to cook about 10 or 12 minutes to fortify all the hamburger Salisbury steaks. See you in a minute.
This is coming back in off of a brown gravy stuff. what we're doing right now, we've got our liquid base down there. Now we're going to come back and thicken it up. It's going to probably take, I'm going to say, you always want to put a hot to a cold. This is a cold. Anytime you're going to cook anything as far as a gravy, you want the hot to the cold. Now if you look down here, it'll start thickening up. It's going to take probably about 2 or 3 minutes, and if we don't have enough, we'll add a little bit more of the flour mix, which is basically the brown gravy stuff.
How long is this going to cook for?
This will take about 2 or 3 minutes. We'll look at it, see how thick it's going to get. If we need to add more of the brown gravy mix, which is basically a thickener, we'll add it. Let's let it cook for a couple minutes to see how. Now you can see that we've come back in, we've added the brown gravy to it, and you can see it's starting to thicken. Take a look down there. You can make it thick as you want. You can add a little bit more of the brown gravy mix in it. Different people like different thicknesses, but you can see it's starting to, look here at the spoon. If it cooks a little longer, it'll thicken a little bit more. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn this down, and we're going to turn it off, and we're going to let it simmer for a little while. And guess what? It'll thicken up to whatever you want, and you can come back in. If it's not thick enough, you can always add a little bit more of the brown gravy mix in it. If you have too much, you can't thin it down. Come over and take a look at what we got. You can see it's bubbling good. The gravy is a little thin for me, but people like things a little bit different. So what you can do with this, now that you got this done, we've probably been about an hour and 15 minutes on cooking of the thing. We're going to turn it down, we're going to let it sit there. So if you make some mashed potatoes, the gravy's great over it. You can put it over rice, you can put it over noodles, you can do whatever you want with it. But the whole key is, if we look at the hamburgers, they're not super overcooked, but what's happened is all the juices from the hamburgers gone down in the gravy, and we got the onions, we got the bell peppers, we got a little bit of mushrooms in it, and bon appetit.
Salisbury steak. All right. So the next thing is to eat. Hey y'all, this is gonna be real nice. Just like he said, put a little bit of a noodles with it or whatever you like. This will be good. Good for your family. So y'all, this is the product, Salisbury steak and a cold beer, of course. Hey, this is real nice. Y'all really enjoy this.